Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast, our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. We are going to talk about some goats today. Oh, my goodness, what an enterprising young student we get to talk to, raising goats all over their area, finding pastures, fencing those pastures, and an idea to go completely vertically integrated with goats from birth all the way up to selling cuts of meat. Really, really interesting story, and we're going to be interviewing Willis Wolf, who's coming to us from Merced, California. No wonder he is a finalist for the award of National Star Farmer this year. He is innovative. He's got a lot of ideas when it comes to raising and farming goats, as well as forage production. Really excited to introduce you to Willis and to bring this story to you, and we're going to start it right now. Joining me today is Willis Wolf, and he is coming to us from Fresno State University, where he is studying ag business, and he is a former chapter president from El Capitan High School in Merced, California, and a National Star Farmer nominee for the 2019 National FFA Convention. Willis, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Hey, you bet. It's exciting to speak with you, and everybody that listens to my podcast regularly, they know that I grew up in the San Joaquin Valley down there in California, and here you are. You're representing the Central Valley as a potential star farmer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting.
All right. So you grew up in Merced. Merced is, I played sports against Merced High School when I was in high school, so really cool to speak with somebody so familiar with how I grew up, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, Oh, go ahead, Willis. Sorry.
Oh. I said people don't realize, how different Central Valley is compared to other places.
Yeah, yeah, it's very different in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of crops, a lot of unbelievably great yields in agriculture, and it's a really interesting place.
Yep.
Well, let's do this. I want to start off just by letting our audience get to know you a little bit, Willis. Is it all right with you if I just ask you a few questions about you?
Sure.
Okay. Well, how old are you now?
I am 21.
All right. And now, what year does that put you in at Fresno State?
That puts me at a junior at Fresno State.
Okay, junior. And when you are not in Fresno, when you're not on campus, you're at home in Merced, are you on a farm, are you in town, or something kind of in between?
Something in between. My family farms a little bit up north, about 30 minutes away from where we live in Merced, around the Turlock area.
Yeah.
And that's where the goats are. And I farm where we rent places around our house, but our house is only a little ranchette, so it's about 3 acres. But it's out of the city, but it's not, full-on farm.
Gotcha.
We're actually really close to UC Merced.
Okay, so you're very close to UC Merced, and you got about 3 acres there, and you said that you've got goats north of there up near Turlock.
Yeah, I have goats, I guess you could say almost all over the state.
Okay. Very cool. I am looking forward to finding out about that. Now, I want to ask you, how long have you been part of the FFA?
I was part of FFA going into my freshman year of high school. First thing I wanted to sign up, I wanted to take night class so I could be an FFA. Because I did 4-H when I was younger, and I always wanted to be an FFA member and really get involved in the FFA. So as soon as I signed up, went to high school, signed up for an FFA class.
Okay. That's interesting that you talk about being in 4-H and knowing that you wanted that to lead you into the FFA. Was there a lot of interaction between the local FFA chapter and your 4-H club, or how did you kind of get exposed to the FFA through 4-H?
I got exposed because I had an older cousin who she showed FFA when I was in 4-H, and she helped me get shown, working with my lamb and stuff like that, getting ready for the show. And she was FFA.
Okay. And
I got to know her ag advisor pretty well. And so we talked about FFA and, what cool stuff is going on. When I was in 4-H, I always thought it'd be cool. I could take a shop class in high school and learn something.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something that I've always wanted to do when I, heard about it. And that connection through showing at the fairs and knowing other people who are in FFA over me that were helping me was really cool when I was younger.
Okay. Now, how did you get involved in being an officer and being on the officer team?
Well, to be honest, at first I didn't really want to be an officer. I just wasn't me. My freshman year, I was a really shy student. I tried to sit in back of the classes, and I just wanted to show goats, maybe compete on a team. When my ag teacher pulled me aside, hey, we're going to have a livestock judging team. I think you should be really good at it. You should join it. Yeah, I joined it and slowly built my confidence up, which the FFA helps out with a lot. And I built it up, and then I said, you know what? I want to become an officer. I think it'd be really cool to help my chapter and make it, grow and help influence the younger kids who are like me, who came in, who were shy, who didn't know anything about FFA or, stuff like that. And to really push them, like, hey, you should get involved. It's a great program. There's a lot of opportunity to take you places. So, try to get involved. So that's how I went from not wanting to be an FFA officer to being the chapter president.
Very cool. Well, good for you. And I'm assuming that there were some ag advisors that were kind of behind you and supported you throughout this process. Would you mind acknowledging those folks for us?
Yeah, my ag teachers were Celia Casso, Arthur Faria, Chris McKenna, and Michelle Evans. They helped me quite a bit in my FFA career.
Thank you so much for acknowledging them. I really appreciate that, Willis. I'm going to take a quick moment to acknowledge one of our sponsors, one of our great supporters, and that is Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment. Everybody, please go over to powderriver.com and see what they've got to offer for you. They make absolutely the best livestock handling equipment for your large livestock, squeeze chutes, sweep tubs, panels, calf tables, whatever you need to handle your cattle as stress-free as possible, as injury-free as possible for both you and your livestock. I've been to their factory. They make unbelievably high-quality materials, and they do it with crazy wild cattle that we've got out here in the West in mind. And if their equipment can handle those cows, they can definitely handle yours. Please check them out at powderriver.com and let your local farm and ranch retailer know that you want to be able to buy their livestock handling equipment. And let them know Matt Breckwald from the Off-Farm Income Podcast sent you to them. All right, Willis, thank you for letting me get away with that.
No problem.
All right, well, let's talk about your supervised agricultural experience. You've already piqued my interest by saying you've pretty much got goats everywhere. Tell me what you've been doing that's led to this nomination as National Star Farmer.
Yeah, my SAE project is commercial goats and forage. So, hay. I got into it when I was really young. Goats. I showed sheep at the fair, and I didn't. My uncle raised sheep, and so I got into sheep, and then goats started to become more and more popular. And my brother got a goat, a doe for his birthday, and a young buck. My dad got it for him. And we have, like I said, 3-acre ranchette, 2 acres of its irrigated pasture. And I wanted 12 goats for the back 2 acres.
Okay.
And I told my dad. And he said, Dad, I want a loan. Right? My dad was crazy enough to lend me the money. I got 12 goats. And then I started buying more goats and selling goats and breeding goats and keeping all my replacements.
Okay.
So now I have goats. I'm over 600 head of does right now.
Wow.
And roughly 300 acres of dry farm ground here in the Central Valley, with 10 acres of irrigated ground, and so I have goats in Amarillo County, the city of Plymouth spray fields. Up there, I have a grazing contract with them up there.
Okay.
I have goats around my house on irrigated pasture, and I also have hay fields around my house. That's all dry farm, and have goats like I said around Turlock. That's where our main ranch is, where I store equipment and keep bringing the goats home for the winter. So I have goats all over, and I've got the hay's pretty centralized, but I got goats pretty much all over.
Wow. Okay. So it all started with 12 goats, a dozen goats, and it just kind of blew up from there.
Yes.
Very interesting. Now, help me understand how this is all expanded. So you've got goats in all these different places around your area there in the Central Valley. Are all these places, when you lease them or when you come up with the agreement, are they already fenced, and are they already fenced appropriately for goats, or is that something that you have to come in and do?
No, so pretty much every place that I've rented have not been goat friendly. They've been cattle,
okay,
for years and years and years. And so I've had to go in there and fence it off for goats. So my initial investment in the property, is quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these places make beautiful goat pastures because some of it's like cows won't eat blackberry bushes.
Yeah.
Right. And so goats will actually eat blackberry bushes and actually trim that bush back all the way to killing it, or just trimming it back even off their fence line. So a lot of these places cleaned up with goats and had to put a fence up. And I've got them by just neighbors talking, essentially, hey, I saw you had goats here. I love the goats. I love the baby goats. They're so cute. I'd love that, to have you come rent out my 10 acres irrigated pasture. Or essentially, that's how pretty much it grew, and that's my investment into those irrigated pastures.
Okay. So now, are these folks, are they giving you the ground to run goats on just so the goats will clean it up, or are you paying a lease plus putting the fence up?
I'm paying a lease on everything that I have.
Okay.
We negotiate sometimes. Depends on the lease. We negotiate. Maybe it's like first year we won't pay any rent because you put the fence up, and then after that we pay. Because some of these places, the fencing was so bad that from just years of cattle that you can't put goats in. The goats would be out.
Right.
All the time. If goats they're escape artists. Now, I've heard an old saying, if you throw a bucket of water through a fence, a goat will get out. That's more or less true. And so, it's negotiated in the lease. And I have done some grazing with people. I've gone in there and said, hey, I got this property. It's pretty well fenced off, and we'll go in there and double-check everything and graze it off for a month or two. But I had very little of that just because I don't have the time, essentially, because between school and the goats, it's hard to do.
Okay. That's really interesting. So now let's talk about the marketing side on the goats. So you've got a commercial goat operation, so you obviously have discovered a value in raising these goats. How do you market them? So
the way I'm looking at goats is I take them to auction yard, Escalon auction yard, not too far from where you said you were originally from. And also I take a lot of goats to Superior Meat in Dixon, California, which they mainly do sheep.
Okay.
But they started processing a little bit of goats now. But between those two and then private sales off the ranch, that's how I market all my goats. But my future plan is to be able to be totally vertically integrated, raise my own feed, have my own goats, be able to process my goats, and deliver that product right onto consumer shelf.
Wow. So completely vertically integrated. So you're going to be responsible for the butchering of the goats and then the wrapping and the labeling of the cuts of meat?
Yes.
Wow, that's
that's my future, my future plan.
Right.
When I get out of school.
Very cool. Well, that's a great plan. And so, I mean, you're going to be the go-to person in your region, at least for goats and for goat meat, it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know anywhere else in the United States, but here in California, the goat industry, in my opinion, is very underdeveloped compared to cattle or pigs or chickens, whatever you're raising. And the demand keeps growing, especially here in California with a lot of ethnic groups we have, in California. And so the demand keeps growing for goat, and less goat is being produced in America and is more imported from other countries. So the demand is there. It just, there's no infrastructure to supply it effectively.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I wanted to ask you about that. So certainly goats are underrepresented, and I'm seeing more of them up here in Idaho as well. But with that said, what do you think? Do you think that there's a chance that the consumption of goat or Chauvin, whatever you want to call it, will ever become mainstream in the United States like beef and chicken and pork?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially, I don't know about Idaho, but in California, California is very known for being health-centered. They want to, they want to eat the healthiest and exercise. And goat, compared to beef, has less fat on it. You can see it. You take a piece of goat chop and a piece of, steak. There's less fat on that goat than there is that piece of beef. Mm-hmm. Now, I love both of them equally, trust me. But the demand there is for being healthier, for people who are really health-centric. I think there's a huge demand, and there could be a huge, market for that. Mm-hmm. Like I said, the industry's not there to support it, and there's no advertising. You see, eat beef for, all the time. You go to a restaurant, there's no goat on the menu.
Right.
There's only beef, right?
Right.
Because there's no industry to support that. So I think there's a huge market for it, and I think there's a huge market for it, and it just hasn't been developed.
So let me ask you this: how will you market to people who might choose goat because they think that's the right choice for them when they're being health conscious?
How I would market goat, especially for my generation, millennials generation, very health conscious people, is you take a goat chop, and it's significantly smaller than an average piece of steak, I would say. Yeah. And that's probably it's supposed to be the right amount of protein in your diet compared to, everybody likes a good, 16-ounce steak, right? But that goat chop is more like what you should be eating, protein-wise on your plate. Mm-hmm. And so there's also less fat. There's more protein per ounce. There's articles, online you can read about this. More protein per ounce in that goat than our beef, And so I think it's for people, especially with heart conditions, or wherever the health comes from. Mm-hmm. I think there's a huge opportunity, and I think there's advertising. You just talk about the benefits compared, to other meat.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you, you've got goats spread out all over the place, so obviously you're checking on them as much as you can, but you're not right on top of them all day long. So you need to, I would assume, choose a breed of goat that's going to do well on its own, that doesn't need a whole lot of attention. What do you find to be the strongest breeds? What do you like to raise the most that, I guess, gives you the less trouble with parasites, with being ill, and things like that?
Well, that's a fantastic question, and that's the one that, the goat industry needs to take a look at. The boar goat is, it's a typical goat. When people think of goats, they go to the fairs and you see the red head, white body goat. Right. And I started off with the boar goat, and they just didn't perform as well as I'd like them to on irrigated pasture, winter forage, stuff like that. Uh-huh. So as a commercial goat industry, the commercial goat industry needs to focus on a very, parasite resistant, low cost goat to really, compete with cattle or chicken. So I've been doing a lot of crossbreeding between goats. I still have boar goats, but I keep a better eye on them compared to the other ones. Okay. For shows, for local fairs. But majority of the goats I'm trying to do is crossbreeding between different breeds, like using a Tico, some Spanish, and throw a little bit of boar in there for the increased growth. Okay. But there's a problem with with goats. They like to give you problems. They're not sufficient like most cattle are. Uh-huh. Compared to the goat, there's a lot more work involved, a lot more labor. But if we can get it, the industry can get it down like I'm working on, I think it'd be a lot better and a lot more profitable.
Mm-hmm. So you're finding that if you're crossing in Kikos and Spanish, that you're reducing a lot of that management that needs to be done.
Yes, I could tell a big difference. The first crop of crossbreds I had, that kid pops right up. He goes over and starts nursing on his mother.
Yeah.
Compared to a boar kid who takes a little bit more time to pop up and go to his mom.
Okay.
And you could just tell, I think the weight gain is significantly better. Even though they say boars are better, I think the crossbreds, my opinion, in my operation, gain faster than the boars, straight boars.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I think I'm behind you. I mean, here you are, you're 21, but you're mentoring me on the raising of goats. So we started off with a breed called a Kinder, but I wanted more weight gain and a bigger frame size, so I've now switched and I'm crossbreeding with boars, but I'm noticing some of those management issues popping up. So I've been thinking about Spanish or Kiko. So it sounds to me like maybe I've been thinking the right way. Now I just need to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, every operation is different. That's just what I'm seeing compared to, talking to local producers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the industry needs to develop a good quality goat if they want to actually develop the industry and start putting goat on the grocery stores.
Yeah, interesting. Well, now, for you to be nominated as one of 4 National Star Farmers, what do you think it's been in terms of what you've been doing that got you over the top? Is it the goat business? Is it the forage production? Or do you think it's the combination of both?
I think it's the combination of both. The more so goats. I mean, the forage business has been around for years, and it's a big thing, for feeding livestock.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the goats, not a lot of people hear about people who are raising commercial goats. And especially in the scale that I'm at, and I'm hoping to grow bigger.
Mm-hmm.
You never hear of a guy who has 1,000 head of cows. You hear of a person who has 1,000 sows, but you don't hear anybody that has 1,000 goats.
Right.
I think it's a surprising thing when you talk about, he has commercial goats. Okay. Really, commercial goats.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Really interesting. Well, I wish you luck. I like your business. It's something that I can envision it just because I grew up in the San Joaquin Valley and I know the areas you're talking about raising these goats. But I think it's so innovative with what you've been able to do, which is without owning lots of land, you've been able to bring lots of land under your control and be able to grow your herd size. And there's probably a lot of future in doing that, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan. As soon as I get out of college, I plan on hitting this full force and really, pushing for my end goal of it being totally vertically integrated. And, in California, with all these orchards being planted, there's not a lot of it's very hard to get property.
Yeah.
Especially, pastures are being ripped up and planting an orchard. So, it's hard to get pastures, and that's the thing that I'll probably have to come to terms to eventually. But as of right now, I think there's a bright future for my project and for the goat industry as a whole.
Very cool. Well, good for you. And Willis, for another student who's listening and they're looking at their area and they're going, I'd like to raise livestock, but I don't have the land to do that. What advice would you have for them? How would they approach landowners who have smaller pieces and they need somebody to take care of it? How would they approach them and convince them they should lease them to them?
I mean, it's a wonderful thing. Usually people who have smaller parcels, 5, 10 acres, 15 acres, and you see that's not being used. As a FFA student, maybe go up, go to their house or the owner and give them a call and say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'd like to start raising livestock. I need a place, and I notice your place isn't being used.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, some finances behind you, like, hey, I could pay this amount of rent. Usually people love helping kids out, especially if they're in the ag field themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's not a lot of young people going into the business, so they love seeing it. A lot of my neighbors who on my parents' house, who I have goats in the back of their fields now, they've seen I've seen goats around that neighborhood for 10 plus years now, because I started at a young age, and I said, hey, we'd like you to have our goats in here, or cows, or whatever. So I think as a young FFA student, don't give up, don't give up on your dream, and you just have to find a way. If they say no, then don't be discouraged by it. You just got to look around for the perfect thing. It'll come all together. It takes time, and I've definitely learned that with growing my project.
Very cool. Well, great advice, Willis. Thank you so much for coming on today, and best of luck to you in Indianapolis.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me, everybody. Really appreciate you being here, and thanks to Willis Wolf for coming on and sharing his advice, sharing his story, and his business model. Really encouraged. I interviewing so many great star finalists this year, and Willis is no exception. Hey, everybody, really appreciate you being here. As always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.